Alright, so what we're going to be talking about today is how to actually host a website in S3. So first, let's talk a little bit about what S3 is. So S3 is their static storage. It allows you, it's not a database, but it's really good for stuff that you want to have like access to and like shared access to really easily. It's really good for stuff like website hosting, if you want to put like pictures, videos, stuff like that. It's really good for that. And you can see this is the UMN account, and you can see actually the website right there that this is being hosted from. So let's get started. Everyone pull up your laptop and go to S3. And we'll actually start by creating a bucket. Alright, I'm choosing Ohio, US East 2, because it's geographically closest to where we are here. US East 1 is really common though, for a place to put things. The bucket name, the thing to remember with the bucket name is it has to be unique across the whole world. So I recommend putting in maybe something with your name and a couple of random things at the end. That's one reason for this. I picked the website name. It ensures, because there's only going to be one of that, the actual website itself. So for this, I'm going to do some garbage. And look, it's available. It's awesome. What are the odds? Alright, so then we'll click Next, and we'll actually start to configure our bucket. So ideally, if this was more like a production thing, we would want some sort of versioning and any of that sort of stuff and logging. What we're going to do is none of this and continue. Alright, and we, the owner, read-write permissions, we're the only one with the read-write permissions, all that. This is good to start with for creating it. Next. Permissions, this is you can kind of go over what we've just done, and we'll create the bucket. And boom, it's there. So now what we could do is we could hold files in there. But what we can't do is, you can kind of see here, right now it's not public. If we put anything in there, and let's start actually by putting something in there. And website file. So I'm going to go to the desktop, and I'm going to quick throw together a file for it. Let's see. No, just the body. Which one? Here we are. Yeah, and please correct me if I mess up, just anywhere along the way, especially whenever I have to touch anything front end like. Definitely a higher rate of me messing up. Alright, so we have this right here, and now let's upload it to our bucket. So upload, you can drag or drop, or I'll just go to the desktop and then upload, and it's there. So now we have our file in our bucket. The issue though is our bucket cannot be accessed from anywhere except by the owner itself. And so you wouldn't be able to view it either. All you could do is download it. So let's change some of that. First, let's allow ourselves to host it as a website. So we'll go to Properties, and we'll go to static website hosting. Kind of easily named for this one. No, we don't want to learn more. We want to do more. Alright, so right now it's not enabled. Let's use this bucket to host a website right here. And we're going to keep index.html, error.html, keep that as is. If you want to, you could change it. You can make your own error document too, which I'd recommend if you're making like a more heavy-duty website, especially more heavy-duty than our little here we are thing. So index.html and save. So now our bucket is actually being hosted. The only issue is, we can go here, access is denied. That's because it may be hosting the bucket now, but no one has permission to downloading the files. No one can see it. So what we're going to do is we are going to, and this one actually requires code. Yep. Awesome. This will actually require a bit of code. Most of the stuff in the console you can do purely within the console. This will require you to mess with a little bit of code. So let's find this old-fashioned way of interwebs. So static website hosting AWS and then bucket policy. And here it is. So what this is saying is I want, and we'll kind of go over this more when we get to the second part of this, where we go over a bit of CloudFormation. But what this is saying is I want you to allow, I want you to allow anyone to get objects from my bucket. This will then allow us to not have this forbidden error because I'm not a user. This right here is not a user in S3 in AWS, but with this everyone has access. So I'm just gonna, it's JSON, so I'm just gonna do a little copy and paste action. And then it can't be example bucket, it has to be the name of our bucket. So temp dk flasf poin. Oh, those are almost words. Alright. And then we'll save. And this means it worked. So it's giving you a warning that your bucket has public access. The warning is because if you don't mean it to be public and it is, then that's a security risk. If you're putting confidential files in here, then anyone can just look at your confidential files. But we want people to see this. So if we go here, and I'll actually show you how to get to here again. Go back to overview, properties, hosting, and it has the link right here. Go here, and boom, we have a website hosted. S3 costs are extremely low. I'm still in free tier for this, but I'll throw that up there. With all this, something you have to have in the back of your mind is how much it costs. So for Ohio, this is the cost for the first 50 terabytes. Storage. And then the biggest thing is requests. You have to pay for data in and out. Although for free tier, does it list it here? AWS S3 free tier. S3, so 5 gigabytes. 5 gigabytes, 20,000 GET requests, 2,000 put requests. Before it's even like, hey, you should probably pay something for this. And this is for the first year. It just helps you play around with it. You create your account. Alright, so now we have hosted a website. The issue is this is kind of a nasty looking URL and it is not secure. So over the next couple sessions, we're actually going to get it to the point where it's more like this one. Has a nice short domain and it has SSL. So it's secured connection. Alright. Now if anyone wants me to like slow down or go through a part again, just interrupt me. That'll be fine. Yep. So what we've done is we have, through the console, hosted a website. If we wanted to update it, we could just go to the file. We are here. And then upload, just re-upload. And then we go here, it'll have it updated. So this is a good way to actually, even with your personal stuff, you can create a website and then you can access it from wherever. Again, kind of nasty looking URL and no SSL, but we'll get to that. Now for the second part of this, we will do pretty much the exact same thing. So I'm going to delete this and I'm going to we'll get to that later. So I recommend you could go to your UMN GitHub and I've created an organization, and you can talk to me after this and I can I think add you to the organization. I made the stuff public, but I'm not entirely sure how that's working with UMN specific GitHub. But I've created a repo called First Web App, and this is what I'm going to be using to do all the exact same steps, but with code. So instead of having to click anything, I'll just run a command, and then it will create a website. Run another command, and it will actually update the website. So actually, before I do it, I'll kind of walk through what everything's doing. So this right here is the static website it's going to be hosting. Real simple, just has a title and a body. Later on, as we work out exactly what the web app's going to be doing, we'll work more on what that actually is. Go to deploy that site. This is something called CloudFormation. So what CloudFormation does is it manages your resources for you. It manages updating your resources, kind of linking your resources if you have a whole bunch of them together. And it's really good, especially for if something breaks and you have to rebuild it, remake it. You can just literally run this and all your configurations are set back up. And it's really easy to update. So we start out with saying, this is how AWS kind of versions their APIs. They do it by release date. That way if there are any breaking changes, you could just select a different version of the API to use based on that value. Your description. We'll see parameters when we go to the make file. But basically, they're just stuff you can specify, more like variables as they come in. So we create right here, we're creating the bucket. The type is a bucket. The name is whatever name we give it here. And then this is saying that we want it to host a website, and that website's index will be index.html. Now the bucket policy here is exactly what we did in the console. It's saying that we want you to allow everyone to access everything in that bucket. So it's using stuff like ref, which references certain parameters, and it uses sub, which takes in this right here, and it substitutes it for this value. Oh my goodness, words are hard. Which is the bucket. And then this one right here, this is a pseudo parameter. This just says I want you to make something that's called the stack name :bucket, so I can actually reference it in other CloudFormation templates if I wanted to. And then take a quick look at the make file. And don't worry if some of this is like confusing or a lot at first. This is all will be on the GitHub, so you can look at it whenever. And we'll be going over like more CloudFormation, and you'll get more confident as we go through. So, how many of you have never worked with a makefile before? Yeah. Usually, you get to it in some later comp sci classes. So, what a makefile does is it's really good. It's used usually to like make programs, like compiling a C program or something like that. All you do, and I'm gonna go to it actually. Work. No. So what I'm going to do, and I'm going to show this as an example, is I'll do make no-op from here. And what it does is it runs whatever code is here. In this case, I said, tell me I did nothing, which is accurate. So and makefile is just like a personal preference of mine. You could use a bash script too if you wanted. I'll make this actually visible. So what this is doing is it's saying I want AWS's CloudFormation to make sure that the static site template that I showed you is actually valid. If you don't do that, all it does is it uploads it to CloudFormation and starts to run it, and sometimes it can fail. And especially some templates can take a long time because resources can take a while to provision. So you don't want to like say deploy this thing, wait like 20 minutes, it failed because it wasn't valid, when you could have just validated it from the start. One thing CloudFormation is kind of weak at is that so its validator isn't perfect. It can miss a lot of stuff too. But it's a good place to start. Next, we actually deploy the CloudFormation template. We say what the template is, which is this right here. We give it a name. So I named it first web app static site. So when it replaces it here, it'll replace this with first web app static site, the name. Parameter overrides, I make it be whatever this value is as the web app bucket name, so that's what this parameter will be. I gave it some tags so we can like organize it within the console. And then I have multiple accounts multiple profiles. So I specified the one that's for UMN Cloud. I recommend, especially since a lot of you guys will be using personal accounts, you set that one to the default, and then make, if you work in this, make this UMN Cloud, kind of like this. So let's make a new bucket. What do people want to call it?
Bucket.
Bucket? Alright, that's a good start. I assume someone else has a bucket called Bucket, so we'll need to add some more randomness to it. Anything else I want to throw in here into our bucket name that we will almost immediately get rid of? This is probably good. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make create bucket. First thing it does is validate. That's good. Now it's deploying it. One thing I like about the deploy command is it can create and update a stack, CloudFormation stack. Not all of them do that. There's like a separate create, a separate update. Deploy will create if it doesn't exist, update if it does. Now let's go to CloudFormation, and we can see it building. Alright. And it's done. It's created. If you look here, you can see we specified web app bucket as an export right here, and with the name first web app stack site : bucket. So now if we go to S3, here's our bucket. It's already public and accessible. It already has website hosting going. So if we go here, we'll get nothing because we didn't put anything in our bucket. So we have a bucket, but it's empty. So what we'll do is we will upload right here this index.html into our bucket. We'll do it through the make file as well, through the sync website command. So AWS S3 sync will take everything in this folder and make sure it's in the bucket. So run that command, make sync website, uploaded it. So now if I refresh, we're good. So yep, that's a workflow of syncing that I generally use for like the websites I work with. As I mentioned, later on we'll get to doing SSL and like custom domains. The domain name itself will be like the only thing that actually costs money, because you have to like pay for a domain. I believe it's around $10 for .com, $10 per year. And then SSL will do through something called CloudFront, which I'll get to when I get there. But do people have any questions about kind of what we've done so far? Nice. So, yeah.
Which line uploads the index.html file?
Yep. Line 19. It uploads everything in the, I'll show it here. It uploads everything within the static site folder, which is only, I think I say, .html. So if we go here and we look at refresh, look at the contents is that index.html. So one thing that you guys could do is you could just on the side like make maybe make like a personal website or something. And from these steps right here, you could actually host something that'd be accessible to the public. And at this point, for all this, you wouldn't have to pay anything, like at all. I think for S3, the most I've paid was like 3 cents, I think, for the month. That was in my account that's not free tier, and I was doing a lot of stuff that month. So it's pretty easy to work with when you're not doing like huge amounts of load. Which, if you're doing huge amounts of load, I'm hoping you're making money off of that load. So it would work out. Yeah, do people have any kind of more questions about this part of it? Yeah.
Can you go back to the command line and create a bucket?
Yep. Do you want to see the code or
the command line?
Yeah.
So make create bucket.
Yep, make create bucket. It goes to this create bucket, and it runs this bash code. Yep. And one thing is, if you try to do this right away, it probably won't work for you guys because you need to have installed AWS CLI, which can be installed via Python. So, for example, it would be pip install AWS CLI, I believe. Let's see. Yep. So I did 3.6 because I know I already have 3.6. But with this command, I specify whatever version of Python you want. 3.7 is the current. So I'd recommend 3.7. But pip install AWS CLI. And then after that, you'll have all the AWS commands to run. Yep. Yep. And then there is one more, there's always another step, but there's one more step beyond this is you need on your local machine to have the ability to talk to your account. So you're going to need, I can show it here. So I have one admin user. So like this, an access key, and I'm going to show you creating an access key. So you can go to AWS, and this is the final set of steps, just for doing any kind of thing programmatically. I created a user for this. It also should start out creating your account with an access D. But let's just make a user. Why not? So user is fake admin. Let them do whatever they want. Actually, I won't give them console access. I'll just make them just a programmer. Now, if this was like your account that you'd use, you should give yourself console access, create the password, do all that. Because even with the command line, it's a lot easier to just see what's happening in the console and work, just kind of diagnose anything within the console. But I'm just showing you for the purpose of creating an access key. Permissions. So what you should really do is create users and groups for those users, all that stuff. What I've just done is say, this is just me using it. This is currently almost like my personal thing, so I'm just going to make myself an admin and not worry about permissions. It's not a good model, especially not good for like working with like groups of people. What you should do is give yourself the least permission possible and assume roles that have higher level permissions to do things. I just don't have time for that. So view, create user, and then I'll download the CSV, open with Atom. So what this has is your username, password if you had one, as this right here, an access key ID, and then a secret access key ID, and then how to log into the console. Then you just create a folder, your credentials folder. And you put it as, for your personal account, it will be default AWS access key ID is what it gave you. Secret access key ID is the other one it gave you. And then it just needs to be in a path kind of like this. Again, if you don't like catch everything here, you can stop me and I can go over something again. And this is being recorded and will be put on the website. And then once you have that set up, instead of naming it default, you name it UMN Cloud, or whatever your personal thing is, whatever your profile is. Profile I use for here, remember, is UMN Cloud. If you don't specify profile, it just uses the default one. So if I go back here, close. You can create more access IDs, cycle them, whatever you want. But yeah, with that, you're good to go. So I will